I want people to realize that I know my Democrat colleagues in the State Assembly and the Senate, and I know that if the Democrats had been in control, there would not have been secrecy oaths. People wouldn't have had a $400,000 shop down the street with Michael Best and Friedrich drawing these maps, using their personal emails, which is a real problem that I have with people that do that, because I believe that the sun should be shining in on what's happening in that state capitol, not down the street. I know my Democratic colleagues would not have been smashing hard drives, hiding evidence in these cases, and I know we would never have done what was done to us. We would never have done that to them.
And obviously a lot of that came out of lawsuits that followed the redistricting hearings. Getting back to the actual redistricting itself, one thing that Bill Kramer, who's the Assembly Speaker pro tem, pointed out the other day, and I think a lot of Republicans do feel this way in the state of Wisconsin, that if you get it out of the hands of the Republican legislators or the Democratic legislators, you're going to put it into what he feels like is a partisan group anyway. If it's the Legislative Reference Bureau, he said, look, the GAB is supposed to be nonpartisan. I don't think they're nonpartisan. Clearly the Dane County judges are not nonpartisan, even though they're supposed to be. So really, are you really putting it in the hands of a nonpartisan body? Too cynical, or do you feel like there's some validity to that argument?
Over the years, the Legislative Reference Bureau has been seen as really the epitome of a nonpartisan legislative service agency. The Legislative Fiscal Bureau has a similar reputation in Wisconsin. I think the Government Accountability Board's track record speaks for itself. They've come down with rulings that have angered Democrats. They've come down with rulings that have angered Republicans. They've made both sides mad.
I think they have angered Republicans more, though. Is that safe to say? And I'm not saying they're partisan, but I do think they've angered Republicans more in some of the, or perhaps it's the way the Republicans have reacted to it, but.
I think the reaction may have been stronger from one side, but boy, you look at the rulings over the years, and they've come down on against both sides. Yeah. The Legislative Reference Bureau for years, this goes back decades, has had a reputation as really one of the nation's finest nonpartisan legislative service agencies. It's really unfair to the staff of that agency for people to tar them with the brush of being partisan. They've done nothing to deserve that. They have a reputation for serving people on both sides, drafting bills for legislators on both sides, doing research on issues that is balanced, that helps educate members on both sides. Really, that's an undeserved attack on an agency that for decades has established itself as really one of the top legislative service agencies in the country. Bottom line is, you look at Iowa, they use their equivalent of the Legislative Reference Bureau, and what they've got are more competitive districts than we have in Wisconsin. I think just taking it out of the hands of the legislators themselves, who have some self-interest in designing districts that will be friendly to their own reelection, just removing it from their hands and giving it to some independent authority is a major step forward, and it creates a situation where the lines can be drawn in a way, not with the aim of helping a particular legislator stay in office, but with the aim of creating fair districts where voters have an honest shot at deciding whether they want a Democrat or a Republican to represent them. You know, I think it's going to take a public that says, wait a second, let's do this in the interest of voters. We tried to get redistricting reform back in 2001 when Chuck Kowala was drawing the district lines for the Democrats in the Senate. Scott Jensen was doing it for the Republicans in the Assembly. In 2009 and 2010, when the Democrats controlled the legislature and the governor's office, we were pushing for redistricting reform. Both sides have wanted to control this process. It's time to put the voters in the driver's seat.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, guys. We're out of time.
Thank you for this opportunity.